Oh, I'm the face of HVAC 2.0.
You're the face of HVAC 2.0 this week. Hey, Ken, thanks for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Good to be here.
We were talking a little bit before we went live about trying to get the free quote process. So it's something that people use all the time instead of just sometimes, which means it needs to be easier, provide more value, and provide value every time instead of just sometimes.
Yep.
And you were telling me a little bit about a situation that you ran into where you think might tell the tale.
Yes. My grandson, who's salesman now for the company, sold a system properly sized, and then the customer called and complained, well, we're trying to get it to 70 and it's only getting down to 72 during our hot spell.
And what's your design temperature?
75. Well, I'm sorry, outdoor 92.
Okay, and what was the temperature that you were experiencing?
They reached, it was 92, 93.
Okay, so
we're in Southeast Ohio.
So
we've had
periods of very high heat for an extended period of time.
Yes. And this is had they asked the question beforehand, what are your thermostat settings? That could have been dealt with beforehand. Of course, it was exceeding the 75-degree industry standard, but the customer.
Right. It was 72 instead of 75 and probably fairly dry because it must have been running full time.
It was running quite a bit. There were a couple of problems with the house. So
no discussion about how the house could have some responsibility there.
That was not implemented. They needed to use the thermal imaging camera after the fact to find that there was it's a ranch house on a full basement, unfinished basement, but a stairway going up to the attic, which is separated by an interior door from the house. So the
attic is probably pretty connected.
Were all hot.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
All of these things were contributing to heat gain for the house.
Did you have to break out the blower door and go help them?
No, I just went in and made sure that airflow was set correctly so that it would perform with a balance of latent and sensible heat removal. They decided that they talked it over with the customer and agreed that some duct improvements were needed because of the way the ducting was originally in the house. So the customer agreed to pay for those improvements, but I'm not certain that still would relieve the situation of needing a colder temperature than the industry standard. Some people want what they want. It doesn't matter whether it's right or not, they want it.
Right. And if you don't ask, then you have particularly since you're the expert, if you don't ask,
then you're largely at fault. Yeah.
You really are. You really end up being, you're the bad guy because you replaced the equipment and you didn't ask. I don't know what questions you should be asking me. You're the expert.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you downsize, which is frequently a good thing, and it doesn't perform up to their expectations, all of a sudden they think, oh, now my unit's too small. And then you have to explain.
Oh, so this was a downsized situation.
Yeah, not a lot, but just a little.
So, and this is where wow, there are so many places that they would have covered their backside just using the process. Should we try and break down?
Sure.
Let's add. Hey, Reedie.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. So we're
Good.
just talking about a situation that Ken ran into with his grandson, where the free quote questionnaire would have covered a lot of issues. The people wanted, well, they're used to having a 70-degree thermostat setting. We have no idea what relative humidity that is, but likely much higher relative humidity than the one the new equipment had, because they put in smaller equipment and it was running continuous and only bringing it to 72. But if it's running continuous and bringing it to 72 and they're used to 70, I would guess it's probably going to be pretty dry unless the house is leaky. Now, granted, it sounds that there were a lot of leakage points in the house.
Yeah.
But the conversation about deficiencies of the house being likely load range would have been perfect here.
Right.
Yeah. As well as the simple question of thermostat settings.
Thermostat setting.
And we cannot assume in those cases.
And is it humid in here and all of these other. So I'm sorry, keep going, Ken.
I'm not sure that there is that much more to tell. As I said, they were making some duct changes because many of the supplies had been on interior walls, not because this was an older house converted from a gravity system, but just because that's the way the doofus who hooked it up, who designed the system in the first place, did it.
Okay.
As I said, use of a thermal imaging camera helped identify some of the trouble spots so that they could then have the discussion of, all right, now that we've discovered this problem, which is contributing to your discomfort or your lack of comfort, what are we going to do about it?
Right. Do you want to spend $10,000 to $15,000 replacing your ductwork so that it's correct? And then we'll upsize your equipment because we got to take some responsibility for downsizing the equipment.
Yeah.
I mean,
not
it's
a situation we like to be in.
Right. And
What kind of thermostat?
I didn't look at the thermostat. I probably just a Honeywell, since that was the standard that we install.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I had an eerily similar thing. I did ask the questions though, and so that saved my butt.
Yeah.
But
I should have told him just to recalibrate the thermostat and offset it by 2 degrees.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I made an adjustment. Now it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it's been a beastly summer.
Mm-hmm.
As of late, our area has been declared a
sanctuary state.
Well, no, no, we're not going into politics with this.
Okay.
The drought. There we go. Drought.
Oh,
a drought. Yeah, but at least I don't have to mow the grass anymore.
So no forest fires yet.
No, none.
But not allowed to have backyard grilling.
I don't want to go outside to grill anyway.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right, Reedie, tell us about yourself. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
You've got a bunch of war stories for us, or some fun stuff?
I do. I got since we last talked, I've had a lot of free quotes. I sold them. You know, my closing rate is pretty good. It's overall for the whole year, it's 62%.
Is that taking out the humidifier calls and sort of the silly stuff they sometimes send you on?
No, that's including all that junk too.
Oh, 62% closing rate, including probably 10% of it's garbage.
Yeah, it's actually like 61.7. But who's counting? You know.
Mhm.
But I tell you, I had one recently that I went on, and it was one of those ones I had been to before I did the free quote on. He bought the unit from me. He didn't care. He just went with a 2-stage, so that was better than a single stage. It was a package unit, heat pump. But he had put in some mini splits by himself, bought them offline, and
that didn't go so well for him.
no, he keeps on mentioning, he keeps on talking about something called something I've never heard of. It's called a champagne leak in the refrigerant line set. And I don't know what that means, but
Bubbling through it.
I guess
It means
maybe.
he's going to make a lot of money. That's what he means.
Well,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
any event, all we had to do was put in a unit. We put in a mini split because that's what he had, and he wanted size for size, no big deal. It's 12,000. He had a 9,000 load. We haven't put it in yet. We're putting it in a few days. But the champagne leak, and then I looked at the other one he put in, and he had that plugged into the wall outside in one of the GFI plugs with a cover on it.
Must have been a small unit for 110 volt.
Yeah, it's 12,000 BTUs.
Okay.
You know that it's a quality piece of equipment when the model number for the outdoor unit and the high wall unit are the same, except for one says I, that's for indoor, and one says O for outdoor.
And
Just so they don't make a mistake and get it backwards.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Nice.
I did 3 comfort consults last month that really 2 comfort consults and 1 free quote because the guy just didn't want to do a comfort consult, but it was it ended up being like a comfort consult, except for we didn't do the blower door because he just didn't care. And so what we ended up doing was putting in a new duct system, a new unit, a 2-stage unit. He wanted us to encapsulate he wanted us to put insulation in his crawl space. And so we did all that for him. I offered him the free quote. I mean the comfort consult. I offered him fresh air filtration, all that business. He didn't take any of it. That's $33,000. We
Wow.
did.
And so $33,000, and he's taking full responsibility for the specification.
Full responsibility, which is he knew it up front. And he said, "This is what I want. This is what I'm going to get." Great.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. And so the other 2 comfort consults, one of them is she had a closed crawl space. We just changed the dehumidifier out in that. We put a green speed and we made some repairs on her duct, and we did an attic retrofit, put fresh air, a good Honeywell MERV 13 filter in there. And we haven't done the attic portion of it yet, but her husband, it was so much dust in the house. It was in negative pressure most of the time because that supply duct was leaking in that crawl space, closed up. And so it's pulling return air. And then she's got this gigantic hole that leads from her attic through her house into her crawl space. And so once we blocked that hole up and put the filtration and the fresh air and the green speed in, she said the indoor air quality is improved by about 40 to 50%. And we haven't even touched
noticeable for her.
Yeah, noticeable for her.
Oh my God, it's better in here. Thank you.
Yeah, she said it's better and you ain't even done yet. And that started out as a free quote. She wanted me to encapsulate the crawl space, and it already is sort of closed, but not really. And so
Well, it's
You know,
connected to the attic, but
yeah,
besides
right.
that,
And that was the thing. And she said some guy. It's funny because this guy recommended us for a duct cleaning, and I
oops.
got out there and blew up his whole job. He ain't even doing the crawl space now.
Oh,
So
on that subject, I just got consumers reports today, and they said essentially duct cleaning doesn't help anything.
yeah,
That was pretty
Wow.
much the bottom line from
Yeah.
consumers reports, which isn't even really that reliable a source when it comes to that.
yeah. Well, it's true if you think about it. How could it? I mean, the duct got dirty in the first place. That means it ain't sealed up well, or there's huge problems in terms of static pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is you've got static pressure, and it's like what I think what you guys have up there. It's buried in walls and ceilings. What can you do about it? So we don't do much duct cleaning because usually when I get out there, the logic, we just kind of follow this logic. Where did the dust come from anyways? And yada, yada.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, if they want it done, hey, we'll do it.
Yep.
It's kind of a
Yeah.
waste.
If you don't take their money, somebody else will.
Well, I mean, at least we do it. We do clean the duct system.
Oh,
Other
yeah.
people don't, and they still take your money.
Spray some freshener in there and tell them everything's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple of
Carpet
dryer sheets.
cleaning companies. Yeah.
Right.
So, but I couldn't be. This year's a great year. The only way I could be happier is if I had more leads. In the last 3 months, I've had 68 leads in the last 3 months, and out of that, I have produced just a little over 700,000. So I feel good about that.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's
I just
awesome.
wish I had like 100 leads. That would be good.
Oh, if I may, how is Carrier doing with equipment availability? We're having a terrible time with ICP.
Well, when it comes to 2 stages, we couldn't get any except for the builder's model, which it doesn't matter. It's the same thing except for the paint.
Yeah.
The 5 stages, we hardly sell any of those. The green speeds, we've been able to get them. Crossovers, we can't get certain sets of heat strips. And
Oh, yeah. Well, that's been a problem, but
so that
for
could
now,
be
at least you can put off installing the heat strips.
Yeah.
But who
Well,
knows
and
when they'll be available?
it doesn't run. A lot of times we don't put the crossover in because you have to do some weird wiring on the inside unit. It's 2 circuits. So either we have to have 10 kW going in there with a number 6 wire that we can take and split it and put, a number 14 for the air handler, and then a number 10 for the 8 kW. I mean, number 6 for the 8 kW that we're going to put in.
Yeah.
And if they don't have 10 kW to begin with, it's another circuit. At that point, what's it going to get you?
Okay. I ask because if we're going to switch distributors, we'd probably just want to go to Carrier because of the similarities in equipment.
Yeah.
Not a big deal for retraining.
Yeah. The only thing is that Carrier will do the same stuff. They'll run out of stuff. Like there was 8 months I couldn't get green speeds or 5 stages.
Well,
so we put in grease.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
Everybody was having problems through COVID.
Yeah, from what I see online, a lot of manufacturers are just not meeting demand.
They're not catching up still.
Well, that was in 2022 and 2023, so it wasn't 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering what's going to happen with the new equipment.
Oh
that's
yeah,
something.
maybe that's part of it. Is they're trying to? That's interesting.
They're going to burn us down. It's flammable.
That's right. That's
I
right.
ran into a Goodman R32, a Daikin R32 unit. That's the first one of those I've seen. And that was a little weird. She had a high static pressure on that. They had 0.98 on the return.
Whew.
Oh, you mean that 6-inch flex wouldn't handle it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of got into that, and the lady was, me and Ted had talked about this a little bit, and she's used different contractors. She's used us, she's used others. We didn't put that in, but what her deal is she just wants to jump around, and so I was sort of glad that is one that I didn't get, and I was kind of glad
Whoever
about it.
has the lowest cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Or the right feather to tickle her foot.
That kind of thing.
That's right. That's right. That's what I got. That's in a nutshell.
Well, so one of the things that you've been sharing with me is that you have kind of created a report / follow-up / thank you that you send people.
Yeah.
And in talking to you about that, well, first of all, your closing ratio is the highest in the group.
Well,
And in talking to you about that, I think that there's a good chance, particularly when it gets busy, people get one visit and that's it. And then they're getting a whole lot of quotes from different people. And even if you had a really great visit with them and they are incredibly grateful for all the information that you shared and the education and everything, there's a good chance later on when it comes to decision time, everything gets sort of mixed up and blended together, and then the squeakiest wheel gets the job.
right.
Whereas by sending them your follow-up, which reviews all of the information that you shared with them, the likely load range and the static pressure information and what have you, that seems to me like it helps them remember that you're the guy that really helped get them educated on what their ideal equipment choices, replacement equipment choices are.
Yeah.
So, and Eric and I are working on making that so the report is going to be more automated. And then you and I also talked about having portions of the report modified a little bit. So that, and help me out here. If there's a lead, what are some of these leads that aren't really good fits right now? Like duct replacement?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, well, a duct replacement can lead to a lot of stuff, but it doesn't lead to equipment. And
Right.
one of the big holes is that, and I don't mind
It's
getting
set up
duct,
for equipment.
huh?
It's set up for equipment right now.
Equipment only. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't mind. I can always work around that, but it's just a little difficult because the report doesn't do it any justice. And so one of the things, no matter how good the people from the office ask questions, and most of them don't ask questions hardly at all. So, but no
You're
matter
going
how
in blind most of the time. It's a blind lead.
yeah, that's right. No matter how good they are, it would be the one thing that I think we could put on there is, what am I here for? And,
Right.
you know,
So that's going to be instead of the first question being the one question, the first question is going to be, what am I here for?
right. In some variation, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
What prompted you to ask me out today?
Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of times, at least from my experience, if it's not equipment, and that means if it's not a mini split or a heat pump or a furnace, then it could be anything. It could literally be anything. They've sent me out for the guy wants a humidifier, and humidifiers are not really something that is a quality lead. But if I ask them, what am I here for? Well, I want to get a humidifier. Why is that? And it just kind of lends to other questions, and other questions let you close up compartments and other compartments. So I just think that a good way, because if you run into people who
Right.
have
You
situations,
could end up with a humidifier. You could end up making it their specification. So if it doesn't accomplish what they're hoping it achieves, that's them. And you get to slow them down and say, okay, so there's a problem that you're experiencing that you think a humidifier is going to solve. And
right?
let's talk about that a little bit, so that your expectations of what a humidifier does or doesn't do, either they'll be met, or if they're not met,
Yeah, it's on you.
right.
Yeah,
We need to have that in our free quote.
I had
Right.
a guy that I went to about 2 weeks ago, and he wanted me to. I can't remember what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to put a dehumidifier in his crawl space, and it's an open crawl space. It's not closed. He didn't want me to close it. He said, "I'm not going to close the crawl space." I said, "What are you going to put a dehumidifier in?" And he wanted me to just give him a $1,200 dehumidifier. And I told him, well, we don't sell them for $1,200. You can buy it online, do that yourself. But long story short, what we ended up doing was ventilating dehumidifier and 3 Ecobee thermostats, so we could track things and average things. And, he ended up spending like $8,800 versus what he thought was going to be something else. And I was just thinking about, how do I put this on the free quote? And there's not a real way to do that. So that was the impetus and the reason for that, because it occurred to me, I made this, what I think is a pretty good sale. It's his specification, sort of. We helped him a little bit out of it through just asking some questions. If we can do that with that, then we can do it with anything.
Yeah. And, in talking to you guys, particularly talking to Austin, he's now going back a year later on some of his comfort consults. And the first couple of times he's a little nervous, because he's like, oh, they're having this problem or that problem. And, after being in the HVAC business a while, you sort of think that you're always going to get blamed for a thing you had no control over.
Right.
Like Ken's story earlier. And so he goes in the door and he said, oh, okay, God, it's been so many houses ago since I was here, and it's been a long time for you too. So why don't we review your comfort consult report so that we can refresh everything that was done here? And that gets the guy sitting right next to you piloting the plane.
Mm-hmm.
He's a co-pilot. And so you guys are now facing the same direction together, and you go through the thing together and you have a little conversation, and then neither is vague about how you got there. So, and a lot of times the homeowner isn't trying to blame the contractor. They're just trying to understand how they got to where they are.
Right.
And so this is a refresh of how they got to where they are. And then they're like, oh yeah, you told us that this might not solve this, this, and this, and to give you a call if any of these issues came up. And we were willing to take the risk. And here we are now. Like, some of those issues we'd like to see better controlled.
Right.
And he's turning these into nice $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 sales.
Right.
A year later.
Yeah.
So part of me thinks that you almost need to when you're doing your numbers, you don't want to call that a lead and you don't want to call that a sale. You want to call that an add-on to the original sale.
Right.
Right? Because now the $18,000 sale is actually turned into a $26,000 sale, but it looks like an $18,000 sale and an $8,000 sale,
Right.
which doesn't really represent what that is. And you have one more lead than you really, run lead. But that's me getting obsessive compulsive over sales numbers. And then I talked to Ronnie, who shared his numbers for last month, and we calculated that if he had increased his close-in rate by, I think he was a 48, if he had gone to 60, he would have had an additional 60,000, 70,000 in sales
Mm-hmm.
just by changing the closing rate.
Right.
And so that to me also convinces me that this report not only has to be better, but it has to be so easy that you want to send it even to the bad leads.
Right. Well, it is a, it's not absolutely perfect, but here's the thing. I'm at $1.5 million right now. And last year I finished out at I think it's 1.7, and we've still got 3.5 months left. I'm going to hit 2 million, and I have had less leads, but I'm selling better jobs, and it is directly attributed to two things. First, the Lord God Almighty has blessed me, and second, that I've got a free quote report that is simple, easy to understand, and it lends itself to just better jobs. So to me,
that's pretty nice testimony.
If we can take and we can improve it just a little bit, just by making it to where we can do something that most people wouldn't even consider a lead, I think we can get something out of that.
And how did the customers feel afterwards?
Well, I mean, when they get the report and they've seen what we're talking about, it's just like the one lady I was telling you about earlier. We weren't even finished with the job, and she said, "Gray, it wasn't a free report. That was a comfort consult, but we're not even finished with the job." And she says, "Man, it's so much better in here." And when they know that they're in the driver's seat, because they're in the driver's seat, and they know that. I've had some people come back and say, as a matter of fact, there was one that we did in February. We put in she had a 4-ton. We told her, based on the likely load range, based on this, you're really in line for more like a smaller system. Maybe a 3-ton 2-stage would be better. She put it in. She complained initially during the hot summer because we had 18 days out of 31 days that were 90 plus, and we had 11 straight days that were 99. And, no matter
99?
what, yeah,
Wow.
no matter what, you're going to feel that no matter what, unless your house is perfect.
Yeah, that's going to soak through your house.
Right. Well, and when we sat there and we looked at the reason why I asked you earlier about the thermostats, because we had an Ecobee thermostat. Then I went and touched the thermostat with my hand. It was 92 degrees. And it wasn't because of a hole in the wall. It was because there was something wrong with the thermostat.
Yeah.
I asked our guy, "Did you check the thermostat?" He said, "Nope." He goes, "I don't need to." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's hot." I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "It's hot outside." I said, "How about checking the thermostat?" Well, come to find out, the thermostat was 4 degrees high. And so what does that mean? It's never going to run. So she had a complete point. Not to mention she had 3 bath fans that didn't have backdraft dampers in them that weren't hooked up, and you could see the attic. So me being able to go and show that and say that to her. When I got there, she was mad as fire. You sold me this. You sold. I said, wait a minute, let's go back. And when I did, you know what? We've had 3 days past that. There were 100 and they were in a row, and we didn't get no complaints. So how do they feel? They don't feel good because they look dumb, but they feel good after knowing that they made the right decision.
Yeah. So you just replaced the thermostat, and then it
Well,
she fixed her bath fans because I told her we're not fixing those.
Yep.
We replaced the thermostat, and all Ecobees come with sensors in it, and we already had one. So I told her, why won't you average these rooms out? I said, you'll figure out real well that it'll bring it all into average, because she didn't want us to move the thermostat, and it was in sort of an alcove, which wasn't smart to begin with, but she wouldn't move it. So that's all we did. We didn't change the equipment. There was a place on there that I found that was not sealed, that was blowing air in the house instead of through the ducts. I did that just because it wasn't right, but that's what we did. And when Clayton went back there to check on it, it was 100 degrees. It was 72. It's better than what she kept it before at 74. So that says it was oversized.
Yeah.
Even at 3 tons. So Tanner, just a brief mention, Tanner, you told my mom and daddy and they ain't done nothing yet. And there's oversized too. So they didn't listen to me. They didn't listen to you. And they didn't listen to me again.
Oh, well.
I can talk to him. I know how to deal with old folks.
Good luck. Shall we start a pot? Do some wagers?
Before we let Tanner get rolling, one quick thing that happened to me. A local insulator, the fellow who did the 8,000 square foot house that I did a couple of years ago, called me because he's selling his house. He had a home inspector come in, and the house has a Bosch heat pump and a nice Rude smart thermostat. Well, the home inspector turned the temperature down 6 degrees and didn't get the temperature split he was expecting. But of course, Bosch doesn't work that way. Even when you turn it down to Y2, all it does is kick the fan speed up. But if there's no load, since the house was already 72 degrees, the home inspector dinged him on the report for, I don't think the air conditioner's working right. But it was 72 in the house and 56% RH.
So the answer to that is, you're right. That air conditioner isn't working right, but Bosch don't.
Well, you can technically what he needed to do was go outside and hit the test button so it would ramp up to full speed. It won't. It simply won't if there's no load. It's responding to saturated temperature. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, now he's got to fight with the home inspector for the potential buyer.
It's too bad it wasn't 100 degrees out that day.
Yeah.
Just your typical home inspector who thinks they know way more than what they do.
I know of only one in our area whom I would trust, largely because he knows his limitations when it comes to HVAC. He's fine. He's got all sorts of certifications for radon and everything else related to home inspection, but he admits, I'm not HVAC. I shouldn't be doing HVAC testing.
Right. Whereas this guy came straight out from 1997.
He's probably using an infrared thermometer, scanning the return, be like, the air temperature's only 65. What's going on here?
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
So somebody
right.
break out the helmet and crayons. We're gonna have to explain it to them.
Thanks for letting me get that one in.
Mhm.
Over
So,
to you, Tanner.
Tanner, what's going on in your world? Is your truck wrapped?
Not yet. I am dropping it off Thursday, and it's supposed to be done next week.
Okay, so
So excited about that.
share the samples so that everybody knows what we're talking about.
Okay.
You want to see it? Pom-poms on all the antennas. Nice
Yep.
pair of fuzzy dice hanging from the mirror.
Yeah.
Pom poms and tails, raccoon tails.
Going way back.
That is just really sharp.
I love it. I think it looks awesome.
I think that looks really cool.
Yeah. And
I see you took Abby's advice on the location of the name,
mm-hmm.
so that when you open the door, it doesn't just leave the date.
Well, technically, you
Well,
still get
on
it
this
on this
side-
one,
Yeah.
and which I mean, I took it as like not a hey, don't do that. It was more of like, hey, it actually worked out really well, so now you can do this.
On this side, you got to put big above the difference.
For my main website profile picture, I'm just gonna like open the door and be like standing behind the door with just like a thumbs up.
And it'll say "Big Dick Serve." Big Dick Sir. That's right. Call me sir.
Which something I also got to thinking about. I went to this like local kind of car meet type thing that was local in downtown
kidding.
area. And I
Cool.
got to thinking about, because there's a lot of those like I forgot what they're called, like it's basically like car show, but like it's
Rat
not
rods and stuff.
yeah, but it's also kind of like there's a lot of them where like the police department, fire department, there's a helicopter there, and there's some other people that'll bring vehicles that like
Cool.
they kind of open it up and they say, hey, you can get in it and do stuff. And I got thinking, well, crap, that'd be perfect to do. Bring the Cybertruck after it's wrapped, set it up. Kids love Cybertrucks. I can set a pin to where you can't put it in drive, open up the doors, and just let them go crazy, get in it, have fun, blah blah blah. And then also, what I'll do is I'll take my blower door and I'll set up a frame to put the blower door up. And since it's got a 110 volt outlet in the back, I can plug the blower door up and kind of have it as like a demo type thing
Nifty.
to show what that does. Or even I thought like next year when it gets summertime, and if I'm doing an event, get a canopy and cover up a section and then build like a small mini split setup, because it's got a 240 volt outlet as well, and have like a mini split setup with some air conditioning and plug it in as well. And then if it's a summertime and it's covered up, well, for one, now people's going to want to go over there because, it's a cool spot, get out of the heat, get a little cool air blown on you, but like kind of play into that, hey, the truck is powering this, plus it's AC. That just so happens to be what I do. So it's kind of like this branding alignment type thing of just making something just be odd, different, cool, that sort of thing.
You could probably put the door sideways.
How so? Sideways to what?
Sideways in the bed, so that instead of standing up, it'd be over on his side.
Oh, you mean like lay the tailgate down?
Lay the tailgate down and then take your drape and put your drape sideways and just make it like the tailgate's the door.
I don't know if I think the blower door, the blower itself might be too big, because I think it's taller than what the tailgate.
Oh,
is.
yeah. No, so it'll stick out above. It'll stick out higher. It'll stick out higher, but if you could do it sideways, then you can still use your drape.
Yeah.
Without having to make some kind of a frame for it.
Yeah.
And run it.
Just remember not to stick the tailpipe into the tent that you make.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Don't want anybody to get EV poisoning.
Oh,
Show the guys your towing picture.
oh yeah. Let's see.
So Tanner apparently has a lot of hills where he is. And so this has completely changed his towing experience. Because going up and down hills towing 10,000 pounds used to be going real fast and burning up brakes.
Yeah, work trailer.
And going real slow up the hills.
Yeah. Well, which I will say, to be fair, what I was pulling with it before is not exactly I mean, I was using my van, and my van's pretty weak anyways. Like, it struggles to go up hills by itself. So
Yeah,
you throw a trailer on there, it's just kind of like, what the hell you doing to me type thing.
Oh, you had one of those Studebaker vans?
Let's see if I can get this picture over.
I seen somebody trying to give you junk about towing or something like that.
Oh, that's
They're
happened quite a bit. They
They're
try.
just jealous.
Yeah, they can try.
Yeah.
But oh, come on.
So you've been having a good time with the thing still.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Anything
definitely.
new to report on that?
So far, I mean, not really. I did let's see. Trying to think what else new. I mean, I guess one thing is when I got it, I was solely deciding on using it as more just for install. But after driving it, I've been like, now I don't want to drive the van. So I've been trying to figure out how I could set it up for a service van or a service truck as well. But
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to work, because I don't think it's going to be able to haul as much as what I need it to.
Right.
But
And climbing into the bed isn't the best way to get stuff.
yeah, well, if it was bigger, if the bed was bigger, to where I could put more and be able to still lock it up, because I mean, it wouldn't be a whole lot different than climbing in the back of the van. It's
Gotcha.
just, I mean, I know there's a lot of people, they work out of trucks and they just don't carry as much, but I don't know. I've just always preferred vans because I prefer to have more stuff with me.
Right. You'll lose your back seat if you're really gonna.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like trying to play around with flipping up the back seats, using my pack outs to like try to see, put pack outs in the back and see how that would look. And I mean, it can somewhat work. It's just I'm having to kind of cut some stuff out that I typically have. And
Like
so,
to have.
yeah, so I don't know if that's going to work or not. I may keep trying or whatever, but so far it's probably just going to be for install still, and going and get parts, towing, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I can't get.
So Reedie wanted to ask about TruFlow.
Yeah. The TruFlow. Jason Cecil and I have talked about this ad nauseum. He is in love with it, and I'm a simple person. But if I think that from what I've seen, I think you could do quite a bit with it. My concern is, what about mobile homes? Is that something? That's what brought the conversation on with me and Ted. It was that lady with the 4-ton that we pulled to 3. Is there a way that you can use that to do, capacity and all that airflow on a mobile home?
Yes. Really. So the tricky part with anything with the TruFlow is the different templates you have. If you don't have the right size, then basically you just have to block everything off except for the flow grid with cardboard. And
I
so when I use it, I keep, like, if I take, when I break down a box from refrigerant, I just keep all that cardboard in my van. And then I keep a couple of rolls of tape like a masking tape, blue painter's tape. And so for like mobile homes, which the one tricky thing is this, a lot of them have that fresh air duct that just kind of hangs down. So
Yeah.
that's something that, you may have to like block it off somehow. But I mean, you could take like the front panel off where that like, graded, like where the filter or whatever would typically go or something like that. You just have to take that down and then basically find whatever template is going to take up the most space for it that'll work best, and then block everything off with cardboard.
I
So
see.
sometimes it can be a hassle. Oh, and then the other thing is going to be like, and even with those mobile homes, like it's kind of tricky to check static pressure because it's
Right.
hard to really get in there. Sometimes if they're, I know a lot of those mobile homes, it's like the unit will be in the hallway, and then there's usually a bathroom that's like right next to it, and there's usually a vent in that bathroom.
Right.
Granted, I know it's not the most accurate, but if there's no way for me to really put a probe into the supply duct, then I typically go into that bathroom and just tape that vent off and stick my probe down in the duct. And so
Okay.
that's just what I've had to do. They are kind of tricky, and so it's I mean, it is nice. And I will say for the TruFlow, now that they've actually corrected, they've added the feature to where you can actually set your own like ranges.
And that's the thing that Ronnie just got his,
Mhm.
and because he has a tool allowance, and so I'm like, oh, you should get a TruFlow once that gets high enough. He did, and he really likes it, but his complaint was that it went to yellow too. He didn't like where the yellow and the red were. He'd like
Yeah.
yellow to be down at like 4.5 to 5.5.
Yeah. You've got I think if you're going to present the report, you for sure have to go and like adjust it. And I think what you have
Can you set it as a default, or do you have to change it every time?
It'll hold like I'm going to try see if I can do something. I think I might be able to share the screen of my phone, and I might can do the TruFlow app, and we can kind of
Okay.
go through it.
Oh, that would be great.
Let me see if I can make it work.
Reedie, did you talk to her about sharing the expense of it?
I haven't even seen her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't change the yellow or the red. You can change the CFM marks.
Well, what you have to do, I'll show you. I know what you're talking about. You have to use the NCI. Okay, there we go. Maybe I can. Now let me see if I can share this screen. Window. Oh, there we are. Look at there.
Oh, that's pretty slick.
Technology.
Look at you, Tanner. Right.
So this is the main screen for the TruFlow. If you do the standard workflows, you can adjust it like what Austin said. So what you have to do is use the NCI workflows. And so let's say we'll go with this. Let's see. I think there's a way you can, demo mode. That's what I need. So we'll go here. We connect our tools, go cooling, air handler, horizontal furnace, 350. For me, a lot of them are in a filter grill, so we'll go there. Cooling capacity, we'll go 3 tons. And then here is where you can set your max, or where you can actually set up your what you want it to be. There's a setting you have to enable, which I will. Let's see what this looks like first. I can't remember. I'll show you where the setting is once we kind of go through it. But okay, we connect it. Here's what our return is. Capture that return pressure. Capture the supply pressure. Yeah, this is something that's actually fairly new. I can't remember when it came out, but and so then you go through, you throw the flow grid in. We take our measurement here. Okay, we'll save that. And so here would be our, which I wish it wasn't. I would like to see exactly. I can't remember. I know when you adjust it, I don't know what the range or what their, I don't know, range is per se of like when you set your max to be 0.5. I'm pretty sure 0.5 would be fall right here. So then after 0.5, you're in the yellow, but I can't remember how much of this is it is it to 0.5 to 0.7? I can't remember, but being able to adjust that now makes it so much better because, before, like, you'd be at 1 inch this way and it would just be slightly in the red. It would be like right up here, like, oh, we're just
No
we're kind
worries.
we're kind
Right.
of doing bad, but it's
Yeah.
not the worst in the world. Or if you had 0.79, you would still be like right here.
Right.
But yeah, and so
Right.
the setting that you have to enable to do this is, I'm pretty sure it's this one. So to use manufacturer's max static pressure, that is what enables you to, when you, see if we can go back, continue demo. Well, let me just go back to where we were. That's what enables you to adjust this max static pressure, I believe. I guess while we're doing it, let me just disable it and see if that is the case. Yeah, so you enable that setting, and that will allow you to then set your max static pressure. And so, depending on because there's some systems that you might need to adjust that because the max might be lower or higher just depending on what the case is. So that's something that it made that tool in this report in the app go from, like, other than gathering data for you yourself, the tech, it was basically useless. Like, that was all it was a collection bank in order to, keep track of all of your tests that you've done and to go back and look. It did not serve a good purpose for presenting to the homeowner. And also, I will say the addition to just checking only static pressure with it with the DG8 is really good, nice. And then,
Will you do
especially,
an example of that?
yes. Continue demo. Let's see. Let's adjust this and see what we look like. And so then, if you have the DG8, then you can you throw it in your return, take the measurement.
It's just Bluetooth or
Yes.
or it knows somehow.
Yeah. Bluetooth is Bluetooth to your phone, and so you throw it in whatever is popping up on the DG8, it pops up on your phone. The only annoying thing is if you use a tablet, and, like, for me, I have a lot of crawl space units. It's a little cumbersome crawling up under a house with your tablet and, to take these. But so then we capture that, and so then we can get just our static pressure, which
So Ronnie's complaint about the yellow starting at 0.5, if he would like it at 4.5 to 5.5 or 6, because it looks like it starts at 0.5 there and goes to 0.8. I mean, there are no numbers, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's adjust this. Let's bump it to 0.1 and let's see exactly where our colors are.
Okay.
I did not 0.1. I meant
0.5.
I meant 1. That's what I was. Okay. So our static pressure is 1 inch. I set the max to 1 inch. So that right there is where the max will be at. So the max is right in the middle of the yellow.
Okay.
So
So that is 0.5 right there is what you're saying.
yeah, so let's bump it around and see. So let's go 1.2 maybe. Let's try to find where well, what did it say?
0.1
So
and 1.
so 1 is the highest it'll let us go. So I guess I was wanting to try to see what at what point does it get into the green? Like if our
Right.
max is 1.2 and that's what finally gets us right into the green, then we kind of have an idea of where that falls.
Go the other way. 0.9.
That's strange.
Okay, so yeah, so this is probably what 2/10 of we're going to be this yellow makes up about 2/10 likely. So if we're 0.91, so okay, so we're probably so the line right here is probably 0.8. We're at well, let's see. No, that wouldn't be correct. This is probably 0.7. Well, no, I was right the first time. Let's see, because
We're changing the bottom
yeah
of the thing. So I mean, if you go to
yeah
0.49, it'll go right next to the green.
yeah. Yeah, I guess you'd have to just go down 1/10 for what you want the max at the green to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have to buy that app and subscribe to it?
No. You just buy the tool,
Okay.
which granted the tool is so expensive. If you had to buy an app, I would be highly pissed.
Right.
Right. How much is the tool now? About $2,000 for all the stuff?
For all the adapters and everything, I bet so. It's probably close to it.
Okay.
If you can, well,
If you use it in conjunction with the free quote or with the Comfort Consult, it backs up the Comfort Consult. Or at least
I
that's
would say
what Ronnie did. Ronnie said he's going to use it every time for Comfort Consult. And in fact, if he were going to do static pressure at free quote, he would do this every time for static pressure at free quote and just charge $50.
yeah.
Because he's happy about the report. So you go ahead. Sorry, Tanner.
Well, I was basically going to say about the same thing, is that if you use it in conjunction with at least that duct pressure video, you can
Right.
kind of, because the only thing, one thing I do like about it is how it kind of breaks down the difference in your filter and return and supply. Is it can help to justify big airdrops. So like, which in this scenario it was 0.5 and 0.5 on both, return and supply. But let's say over here, like what Reedie had, it was 0.9 and our supply is 0.2. Well, then it would show our supply being in the green. It'll show our return and filter way up here. And so, then when it's high, we're up here in the red. We know we need to drop it, and we're kind of, everything is lining up to downsizing and a big airdrop. It's just another thing to like illustrate.
You
on
want to
top of you
downsize and
saying
have a
it.
big airdrop, or do you want to take ownership of your sizing decision
Yes.
with the exposure of having to replace all your ductwork for $10,000 to $15,000?
And then also, if you don't want to use the TruFlow grid, you can, because since I like the NCI workflow, because I use the NCI app for, was it the Air Max the Air Max app. So you can you can do a fan table and kind of get the same type of thing as if you were doing the TruFlow. You kind of get the same airflow reading as well. Well, because I know, as we've kind of all talked about, I'll use the TruFlow grid one time on a system, and that's it. That's typically going to be usually on maintenances, or if I'm at a service call and I have time, I'll do it. But then once I do the TruFlow grid one time, you kind of don't really need it anymore unless you're going to be making adjustments to airflow after that. But if you're going to do that, you're likely going to be doing it while you're while you're doing that, or like actually using the TruFlow grid. So then after doing that, I will kind of go this workflow rather than pulling out the flow grid after that, because then it's just one less step. You already tested before, and so you kind of have a litmus test of if this doesn't seem exactly right. So let's say 3-ton. We'll go what? We'll go 1,200. Say it's 400 per ton. And so you can kind of get this same type of, estimated flow without having to drag out the grid itself. You can just keep the DG8.
Can you do that same thing except for put it on OEM?
I can. Let's see. Can I do this without having to go all the way back through? Probably not. We'll just run another one real fast.
Tanner, are you running that app on a computer?
Yes. I've got my phone linked to my computer, and so I'm kind of using my computer to use my phone, essentially.
I didn't know you could do that.
Now you just need to take your laptop into the crawl space with you.
Yeah. Simplify by making it more complex. That's how you do it. I'll just drag my whole PC under there.
Yeah.
Just be like, is there an outlet close by? I got to run an extension cord. My PC really uses a lot of juice, so we need to make sure we're on a dedicated circuit.
Well, your Cybertruck has power.
Yeah.
Take that in the crawl space. Yeah, that's quite an improvement to the app. I'll tell you the place where I found the TruFlow grid to be really good is before and after cleaning a blower wheel. It's an enormous difference, even with just a dusty blower wheel. And you can document that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big improvement in the app.
So, Reedie, how would this help your company?
I don't know.
How would it help you? What?
It just shows pictures. Usually what I do is I also show pictures, but I use the manufacturer's data.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say, it is nice to be able to have like all of the, like you're saving the test that you ran, so you have these reports kind of saved. Now that we can kind of like adjust it to be what we want it to look like, being able to illustrate it on this, in which I'll also show you what, let's see. Well, flitter. I was trying to see if I could show the full report, which honestly, I don't really use them. Typically, what I end up doing is I screenshot what we were showing there, and then I can either save them on company cam, send it to them, or whatever. And so it's nice to be illustrative, and it's like the tool itself is nice because you're taking as accurate of an airflow measurement as you can.
Mm.
And you're sort of removing responsibility from yourself.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm actually just following. I'm not actually taking the static pressure here. These folks at TruFlow are doing it.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, you can definitely, by having something to build, you're kind of showing that, oh, there's software and there's this other thing that's calculating it for me. Like I'm not just punching in numbers and showing you something that I'm fudging up to make it seem worse than what it is. So there's that. And I mean, I do get some positive reactions when, especially like I said, we have a lot of filter grills, so you have to go inside the house and you have to set it up, and they have to, they watch you put this flow grid in place, and they've never seen one before, and so it's easy to it starts kind of spurring up this, why hasn't anyone else ever checked this before, type questions, and so there's little things like that that can kind of build up to it. Uh, as far as like the question of should someone go spend $2,000 for it, and is it worth that? I don't
But if
know.
you could get your boss to pay for half of it, or or 3/4 of it,
Yeah, if that was the case, yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean,
it's going to protect her company a bunch of ways, and and in this situation, when they do a bad job commissioning, or anytime they need Reedie to go out and having this tool as a troubleshooting tool ends up probably being advantageous in that situation. And my take on this was, like, if you're going to be using me for troubleshooting, I need this tool, and you need to pay me for running the troubleshooting. That was sort of the angle I was sort of put.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because that might
Otherwise,
alleviate it.
don't ask me to go bail other people's crappy workout.
yeah,
I want to
and
be paid, and I want to have the right tools.
yeah,
Mhm.
which I kind of think the TruFlow grid is still best paired with MeasureQuick. I feel like that's really the winning combo, because being able to check a operating system, measure its airflow, and do delivered capacity with just the TruFlow grid and two other probes, you can get, you can, because there's been several times where someone has a 4-ton system, and I can show them and I can say, hey, your 4-ton system is doing 2.5 tons of cooling, and it's doing it because your static pressure is high. You're running very low airflow. You're at 300 CFM per ton. You're at, or 280, 275 CFM per ton, something like that. The system isn't charged right because the airflow isn't right. Therefore, you're losing a lot of capacity, but you're still paying to operate a 4-ton unit.
Mhm.
And so that's something it's not on the sales side of things.
Well, it kind of is,
But
though, because if we pivot to the way Jason Cecil has been selling the last 2 years, he's been saying, look, you have a 4-ton unit, but you're only getting 2.5 ton of capacity, which means that you, from as far as your house is concerned, you've only been getting 2.5 tons. So if we put 2.5 ton system in here, it's actually going to work better, because it's not going to be trying to push 4 ton of airflow through your ductwork and only get 2.5.
yeah, well, the only tricky part is for like if you're running sales calls for system replacement, is the system would need to be operating in order to
Right.
do that.
Right.
Now, if
That's
you
true.
yeah, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to kind of link everything together to where I'll already have all of this information for an existing customer before I even go out for a sales call. So that way I can
Right.
kind
You'll
of
be able
link
to
in the
say,
service with the maintenance with the sales.
when I was out here to service this equipment, and I sent you this report, but just so that you understand, again, sort of
Yeah.
like what we were talking about earlier, having the free quote report on every call, or the comfort consult well documented, so when you go out a year later, you're tying it all back together, and you guys are both in the pilot seats together.
Yeah. That and you're able to kind of drip information in on each one, because then when you go out there, you're not going out on a sales call to just unveil all of these problems. You're going out with them already knowing, oh, I have a
Oh, that's
4-ton
right.
unit. It's doing 2.5 tons of cooling already.
Oh,
I
that's right.
know this, I know all
Oh,
this. So
that's
then
right.
you're just kind of like tying it all together. Okay, well, you remember that thing we talked about? Well, what do we want to do about that? Is it important to us to try to address this, or do we just want to continue on this problem? And so it's kind of, it enables this kind of setup for they can already expect it to begin with.
Right, and they can have a clearer understanding of, oh, this is really a real problem. I've
Mhm.
had plenty of time to chew on it and get my head around it, and now I've had some time to think about potential pathways to, better or perfection.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, I really like that. So, and this circles back to a thing that I've always kind of been uncertain of. Feels to me like Measure Quick is the thing everybody needs. And TruFlow Grid is kind of a shiny, nice icing on the cake type of piece. And now I'm hearing that maybe it's a little bit more than icing, but I'm not sure.
It's hard to say because it's one of those things where all of that is really good in the hand. Like it enables somebody of less skill to do work on par with someone with more skill but without the tools.
Gotcha.
But then it's kind of like, okay, well, if they're just unskilled, uh, like I guess then it kind of runs into this thing of, okay, so is the solution for an unskilled person just to load them up with thousands of dollars worth of tools? Uh, I don't know, maybe, but at the same time, then it's I guess it really just comes down to like, does the tool enable quicker like adoption of good practices and doing better work, or is it just one of those things that's like it's nice but not necessarily needed?
So the TruFlow is better thing for when you're trying to develop good installers.
I would say at a minimum, it's for a company. At a minimum, I would say at least have one.
Okay.
So
Okay.
then, because again, I don't know. It's also it's tricky because I also know that I'm the type that I like to get the new like the tools to get the newest thing, the blah blah. Like
Dude who has a
I'm biased to
Cybertruck
yeah,
already. Yeah.
yes. So I'm very biased towards that. So I'm trying to like not just jump into the yeah, everyone should have one type thing, because I guess that's where I would tend to fall, because at the same time I know uh given software to present the information, you can get, you know, pretty similar results without all the fancy tools. Now, I will say MeasureQuick is a lot more difficult to replace than the TruFlow, just because of
Right.
all the other things that it offers. Because, especially with newer motors, if you just have a good manometer, like that's 80% there.
Right.
There is variance. Like there absolutely is things where you can check static pressure, think your airflow is one thing, but it's different because of different variables, dirty blower wheels, stopped up coils. Like there's things that can throw that off, but
That you'll
it's
catch
also
with TruFlow.
yes, because you would think
Well,
your
you'll
air,
also catch it with Measure Quick, won't you?
yes, you can.
So in Reedie's situation, probably the thing is Measure Quick for him and Measure Quick for all the service guys. And then if she wants to go ahead and get one TruFlow for her company, that would be the icing on the cake suggestion.
Yes, but I would, and I guess another thing why I say at least one TruFlow grid is because if you use it, you kind of, it's the same way of like, okay, if you go do comfort consults, you can get a feel for what different houses with different problems seem like. And so then
Oh,
after you do enough, then you can go back to a house,
you're
not
like,
do a
oh,
comfort
I'm
consult and be like,
familiar
oh,
with this.
yes, I know how to handle this situation because it is in line with this. If we, if we do the free quote and we size into the green, we know the path of fixing this. We can get to the same destination, but without a lot of the work.
So you're
So it's a
building your
similar way.
intuition. You're
Yes.
building your informed intuition.
Yes. And that's what I think the TruFlow grid really does well is because you're able to get a very accurate number and you can build that intuition and you can train it and have a reference point to go, okay, here's what
You
I'm
you get to
thinking.
a house and
Here's
you're
where
like,
we're at.
this is 775 CFM of airflow just by looking at the ductwork.
Ductwork and static pressure,
Right.
looking at what's the cleanliness of the system, what does it sound like, does what's the condition of everything, then what's your static pressure, here's what the fan tables are, here's where I think I am, and then when you check with the TruFlow grid or while you're in the process of checking it, you can kind of see what the variance of your margin of error is. Because at the end of the day, yes, the TruFlow grid is going to be the most accurate way to measure airflow. But the same way with load calcs, we don't have to nail it down like perfect. We don't have to be able to go, okay, is it 1,201 CFM or is it 1,957? It's like that degree doesn't matter. It's more of are we around
Real close.
300 CFM per ton, or are we at 350 CFM per ton, or are we at 400 CFM per ton? Like that's
Gotcha.
what we really need to see.
Okay. So, Reedie,
Mm-hmm.
after listening to all this, you probably don't have any questions, but you have some conclusions. Do you have any questions?
No.
Do you have some conclusions?
I kind of think that I don't like
just
the
for your
idea.
situation.
Huh?
I mean, for your situation, not for everybody else.
Yeah, I don't like the idea, and I never have liked the idea of measure quick charging, and they do. I don't
They
know how they
stopped doing
charge.
that. They stopped
Huh?
doing. They stopped doing that. You can screenshot again.
Okay, so
So
as long
that's
as
fixed.
Screenshot and classic report.
And
as
classic
long as I
report.
can do that, then I'm okay with the TruFlow grid using measure quick. I'm okay with that. I don't think she's gonna by any means make the service techs do it. I don't think she cares enough about that. I don't think she'd see the value in doing something as much value as I would to use it for comfort consults and for possible diagnostics. So what I would have to tell her is either divvy up the cost with me for the diagnostic stuff, and you're going to have to pay me a little bit to go out there and do it, or I buy it myself and I don't do diagnostic stuffs
For you
unless
at
you pay
all.
me. Yeah, unless you pay me a significant amount.
Okay.
I think that's the way to play it.
Okay. And I think you can get all the measure quick stuff you need for under $1,000.
Yeah.
And so I think that then you offer also the TruFlow, though you probably offer the TruFlow so that she has a thing to decline.
Yeah, right. Right. Because I don't think for 1 minute she's going to. As a matter of fact, I know she won't even make them do static pressure, and I've mentioned that like 8 times. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, if she doesn't care about how good the service techs are doing, because like if you're not checking static pressure and you don't, that means that you have no clue about airflow. If you have no clue about airflow, you have no clue if you're charging properly.
yeah,
And if that's the route you're going, that clearly says from her, she's saying, I don't give a shit if we do anything at all. So
right.
she's not really looking to either make sure she's doing good work or to open up possibilities for improvements because
Right.
that's really where the value is going to be. Is if you're checking static pressure, or you're doing Measure Quick or the TruFlow grid, you're finding other problems that you can then tell the homeowner, be like, hey, while we were checking this, you know, here's the quote for your Band-Aid repair just to get you back up and going. Here's an option for these other things that, you know, might become a problem because the contactor was pitted, but it was working, you know. But also for this top end option, we noticed, you know, your ductwork's too small. You know, there's this, there's that. You've got a 4-ton system and it's only operating at 2.5 tons of cooling. FYI, here you go.
Right.
so-
And by the way, the new equipment, you're gonna blow it up if you put another 4-ton in. So be wary if you end up going and replacing this stuff and you don't call me.
Yeah, right.
That you should downsize the equipment or replace the ductwork.
Yeah, because it's kind of it's really a very strong, it's like a power play for planting seeds. Because the way that I typically will use it is it's things that odds are they're not going to do anything about it. So I'm going to kind of negative reverse it, and I'm going to inform them in a way of making it seem like that I'm thinking they're not going to want to do anything right now. And so it's all set up in I'm presenting you with a lot of problems. I don't think you're going to fix anything, but here's what it looks like if you were to fix things. But just so you know, everything's working fine and it is currently working. But I just want you to know this before I leave. So
Yeah.
then that way they don't feel like that I'm just trying to sell them a new system. I'm just saying, hey, like, you have legitimate problems here. And it's just kind of pre-setting up, you know, all these things. So then in the future, in the long run, when it does come time to replace, or if they just kind of, you know, maybe they have a bunch of problems after that, like you show them all these things and they have just, you know, problem after problem, you're having to come out every 6 months. Well, then maybe that kind of persuades them to go, hey, I'm tired of dealing with this, let's fix it. And they're doing it because of the known problems. If you're just coming out every 6 months and they don't know that, you know, their system's operating poorly, well, then they're kind of just looking at it that either I have a problematic system and I don't know why, or these people that I'm paying to fix my unit can't fix my unit because they're having to come out all the time.
Right.
And so, and it's a long play. And so that's a difficult thing to get people on board with, because a lot of people are this very short-term gratification type where, oh, if you want a $2,000 tool, well, then show me how this $2,000 tool is going to make me more money than that tomorrow or the
Yeah,
next
right.
day. And if it's not,
Right.
then just don't talk to me. And so it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of that's the way I'm going to have to say it to her, is just that. You know, the thing is I just the only reason that I could see, because I don't think I should have to be concerned with this at all, especially with, you know, my portion of it. But if I can make something different and make a little money on the side, that's what I intend to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting ready to go because I
Okay.
am
Thank you.
tired. Thank you. Thank you, Tanner. I'll
Yeah.
see you guys later.
We'll see you, Reedie.
Reedie.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Yep.
Tanner, you should explain, in case there's any millennials watching, what's on that shelf behind you?
On well,
The white shelf.
oh, you talking about the books?
What?
Dear millennials, they actually have these things called books. They put words on paper and you have to read them. Yeah, but which I should have done this before Reedy went, so I could kind of get his take on some of these things. But I did do a free quote where it ended up being a downsize from 5-ton to 3-ton and electrification. In which it was kind of an interesting one, because there were some curveballs that I hadn't dealt with yet. Not technical, but more for dealing with the homeowner. Homeowner was an older lady. I think there was a little bit of cognitive decline going on, and it also kind of seemed like that she was the type where I think she lost her husband just a few years back, and she's probably been very dependent on him handling stuff. And so I could tell she wasn't super used to dealing with some of these types of things.
Uh,
And so it was a tricky one because I first went out there. It was
did you
a
ask
service.
her if she had kids nearby?
Yeah, not nearby, but she did have kids that were, well, the one that she kept referencing lived in Kentucky. And the reason that it's kind of funny is her daughter is who I'm talking about. Her son-in-law also has his own HVAC company, and he installed the system that I was currently looking at.
Okay.
Way
So you didn't
oversubscribed.
really want to get on a Zoom call to have them be involved in this.
No. No. After
It's
seeing what,
obvious. Okay.
yeah, it was well, it in the end it worked out. There were some kind of hiccups that it was I had to kind of have to deal with. But I guess to kind of set it up, it was a service call. I go out. Um, I look at the system, and when I went before I went out, when I talked to her on the phone, she said, "Okay, I already had somebody else out, and they're just telling me buy a new unit, but I don't understand because I have a 9-year-old unit, and I thought it still should be under warranty, and they're just trying to sell me a new unit. I don't really trust them." And I was like, "Okay, well, we can come out. I'll, free second opinion, see what it looks, see what's going on, and we'll go from there." They said that the problem was a leaking indoor coil. So I go out, I check it. It is in fact the indoor coil was leaking. Um, I checked everything else out. The house was probably 2,800 square feet. She had a 5-ton gas package unit. Static pressure was 1.2. And when I opened the panel up and when I was doing my leak check, I also noticed two other things. One, they had wrote on the inside of the door that the coil had been cleaned, and the coil was cleaned. Let me think. I think it was 2.5 years after it was installed. And I also noticed that it had an evergreen indoor blower motor. So the indoor motor had been replaced before. Granted, 1.2 inches of static. Go figure.
It's
Who would have
gonna
thought?
have replacement motors. Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And I checked warranty. It wasn't registered, so it didn't have a warranty. So, yeah, so that was the setup. And so, and that was also kind of funny is that her son-in-law installed this, but he evidently don't know how to register a unit, doesn't know how to set up a unit, just problems. And so what I did is at the service call I offered her, I said, "Okay, here's what we can do." It wasn't completely flat. It had some pressure, but it definitely leaked down, and that was why it wasn't cooling. I said, "We can, if we want to just get it going for, until you can make a decision, we can recharge it." And I have some internal leak sealant that's a non-polymer it's a shot in the dark. It's one of those things where maybe it slows it down a little bit to get you by, but I was kind of just offering this as it's 95 degrees outside. It's really hot. If you want to have cooling, we can get you cooling. We just don't know how long that's going to last. And whatever you spend, if you end up getting a new system, I'll deduct this from the new system cost. So see, so you're not just losing your money, but in me doing this in exchange, I would like for you to, heavily consider me. And if you don't use me, that's perfectly fine. But, I'm not going to, compensate that money back. Well, she bounced back and forth. She ended up not doing that, but she ended up just wanting a new system. So she wanted a quote from me, which I didn't understand. I was like, I'm basically saying, let me get you cooling for the time being because this was a Friday. So I was like, at best, it's going to be middle of next week before we can do anything. But, that's what she went with. And so I was like, well, how about this? I'm going to check everything else out. And I was kind of shifting it into the free quote process from the service call. And so, because especially after seeing that high static pressure, uh, I was going to check over some other stuff. And I was like, we'll go over this. I have a few things I'll share with you. And then we can kind of go over some of these options to see what you would like to do. She was like, okay, that sounds good. And which one of the things that I think, well, that she told me of why she was wanting me to give her a quote is because she was like, well, why didn't the other guy offer me this, to charge it and like the leak stop, to try to get me by. She's like, why didn't they offer this to me? I just don't understand. And I was like, well, I don't know. I can't tell you why they did
What did the other guy suggest?
replace it, the system, because he
And
was,
that was a service call?
yes,
So she paid him for a service call and he didn't offer how to solve it?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
Okay,
I don't-
so the answer is he probably is like a first year technician that his head is wedged up his ass.
Well, it sounded like, from what I gathered, and this is very common, of it being like a very small, like operator owner, I can't talk, type outfit where he's probably running a bunch of calls.
Oh, he's
He
really
come out,
busy.
he's just like, hey, you need a new system. Yeah, I'm not doing anything else other than replace the system. I can get you one this day. What do you
Oh,
want to do?
this
And
is
so
such
that,
garbage right here. I'm not gonna touch it because I'm way too busy.
yeah. And
Okay, that's helpful.
yeah. And so, and her hang up is that she's going like, it's 9 years old. Like, what's up? Now, granted, it did need replaced. It was pretty raggedy, and it's had a lot of parts replaced on it. It had a leaking coil, and it was
It's the wrong equipment.
yeah, it's the wrong
It's the wrong
equipment.
equipment. That's why it's 9 years old, needs to be replaced because it's the wrong equipment. If it was the right equipment, you get 20 years out of it.
Yes. And so we kind of looked at, we was kind of going over some different options and whatnot. I was kind of, I was getting to the budget part. The only thing is, like, she didn't have a good email address for me to send her anything over email. She
Okay.
was wanting like written documents of everything and all this other stuff. And so it was kind of throwing some curveballs that, typically I would send stuff out, for
How
her to
far
like,
away is
look,
she?
what's that?
How far away she live?
Just about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I guess it was
But if
just,
she's in a hurry, that's, her, I can
yeah.
send it to you by Pony Express, but but your decision, if it's waiting on this information is, I
Yeah.
can send this in the mail to you. I can put it in the mail on Wednesday. How soon are you hoping to make a decision on this?
Yeah. Well, the hang up was that, typically we would send like an email with all the information. I would go back, write up the quotes and stuff and send it back to her. And since she didn't have, that wasn't an option, well then, it was kind of difficult. She wasn't too far away, but when I did the service call, I ran this call at like 7:30 at night.
Yeah, you're busy.
So,
It's busy season for you, just like it is for that other guy. And
yeah.
you're like, ma'am,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to get out here, and you don't have email. So even if I mail you stuff, that's going to double the length of time for your decision making. How long are
Yeah.
you okay living without air conditioning?
Yeah. And that was basically kind of what I was getting at. And so,
Oh, wait, you got to go straight up with that question when they start.
yeah. Well, that's, in the way that I kind of worded it, or that I was kind of putting it, is that, well, you have the option, like, we can get you going right now in
Right.
trying to charge it, get you by for a few days, because no matter what, like, if let's say let's say you made a choice right this very second, it's going to be middle of next week before we can start on anything.
How
And
much was
so,
the repair going to cost?
$650, $700.
Okay, so ma'am, for $700, I can get you up and running today, and you're likely to run for a week anyway. So you'll have air conditioning for the next week, and then I can get you new equipment.
Yeah. And I said that at least 3 times, 3 different ways.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And well, and that's where the part where I kind of felt like there was probably some cognitive decline.
Yeah, because
Because
she's not getting the fact that she doesn't have air conditioning, and it's going to cost her money to get air conditioning.
yeah, and like, I had to repeat myself on a lot of, like, I would say a thing, and then later on she would ask a question of something that I'd already said like multiple times. And
Mhm.
so I was kind of having to like really be cognizant to be like, okay, I can't just say it once and expect that to be good enough. I'm going to have to re-hit on the exact same stuff over and over and over and over.
Another reason this other guy didn't want to fix it, because he
Probably so.
totally spotted her out pretty quick, and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah. And so,
not my
uh,
grandmother."
yeah. And so it also kind of got a little tricky because then it's like, okay, we're replacing your system. Going towards the route of like, okay, what do you want? And she's just like, well, uh, I just want the same thing. And it's like, well,
If
the
you get the
same thing.
same thing, you're gonna get the same thing.
Yeah, it's like that's gonna be problematic. And so she's like, okay, well, what are some different options? And I was like, well, we
And so you
and,
pivoted to the free quote process.
yeah, I pivoted in the free quote process. I'd already kind of looked at everything. Surprise! I don't know what was going on originally with the house because it was a gas pack, but they had a 60 amp breaker with a 60 amp circuit ran to the unit, and so I don't know if it was a heat pump
Heat pump
before
sometime.
and then they switched to a gas. I have no idea what was going on there,
How old
but
was the gas meter? And then was it the only thing on gas?
no, she had several things on gas. So,
Okay.
but it so
Plenty
it
of capacity on the gas line?
yeah.
Okay.
And so I don't know what happened there, but it also kind of just brought up like, okay, well, the big problem is that, for one, uh, like that coil getting dirty and them having to clean it that soon, that's a big, like, there's a red flag. Like, what's going on here? Granted, she was using like one of those, like shitty MERV 4 filters that, they keep small rocks or large rocks and small children out, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Uh, the ductwork was old and I couldn't get up in the crawl space at the time,
Uh-huh.
but there was very strong suspicion of there being a lot of return duct leakage. And so I was
Okay.
kind of hitting on like, okay, uh, filter bypass being a big problem, static pressure being a big problem, being oversized being a big problem. And so I was hitting on that. And then as in the
Was she
options,
planning on staying in the house and going out heels first?
um, well,
You couldn't get
it,
a straight answer on that from her? Okay.
it was. I could well, it was difficult because like sometimes you could, but then she would backtrack or she would contradict what she just said.
Oh,
Like in
shit,
the
dude. Oh,
yeah,
no.
yeah. And so because I would be like, because it would be okay, I'm trying to because it was like, okay, this is a problem. This system was probably only like it's a 5 ton, but it definitely wasn't doing 5 tons of cooling for sure.
Right.
We don't know what that is because I didn't see it running. And so it was kind of like laying this out. Okay, here's the problems. Now we could do this, and and it should be like, okay, like should be very on board with it. And I'd be like, okay, our range, realistically, we're probably 2 to 4 tons, realistically, where we could potentially be falling
How big
into.
was the house?
2,800 square feet
Okay,
ish.
so not small.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's realistically where we're at and should kind of be on board. And then I would, so I'd, then it kind of fell into the green zone being that 2.5 to 3 ton. And then she's like, well, 2.5 tons couldn't do it. And I'd be like, I mean, it might not, but here's what I do know. 5 tons is definitely going to cause you problems. So what do you think we should do? And then that it worked, but it didn't work because
It would
it
take it right
just
back to 0.
yeah. And so I
So you picked the size for
I pretty
her? Kinda.
close, yeah. Like responsibly avoiding responsibility felt like it was something that
It's gonna be very difficult to do.
yes. I really what I ended up basically having to do would be like based on my experience and what I've seen, I feel like a 3 ton heat pump is going to be our best, uh, our safest bet.
Our safest bet.
And
And
I
then you
was like,
showed her likely load range,
yeah,
and 3 ton was good,
yeah,
and that made
and,
her comfortable.
yeah. And so and we kind of went like discussing the different things back and forth. Because another thing is she would be like, well, I want something good. But then when it come to budget, she was like, well, I don't have a lot of money to put on this. So like,
Meanwhile, she's senile and has $4 million in the bank.
well, I don't, well, senile, yes, $4 million. I don't think so. I know she did have to finance it, and she got her
Okay.
own financing. But it was like this, like, okay, you've got a laundry list of problems here. And then when I installed it and I was checking everything out, I actually found other problems that
Oh no.
if we
Okay.
hadn't have done what we done, we'd have really been in a world of hurt
Oh, so
because
the
of them.
3-ton, good thing you did the 3-ton, or she would
Yes.
have been really having
Well,
to redo ductwork and.
Yeah, well, what we had to do is I did a 3-ton and I did an April Air 20 by 25 media filter, a MERV 11, like
Yeah.
at the unit. So it was
Gotcha.
I've not
Right,
done this
right.
before. And that is because like I was telling her, I was like, odds are there's probably a lot of return duct leakage, and keeping the system clean is going to be big. Plus, that's going to help with our static pressure.
Right.
Come to find out, when I had actually looked through and really checked everything, I found that it had other returns aside from the central return. Typically in our area, we have one return that's in the wall for the filter grill. That's the only return, and that
Oh
runs throughout the
no.
unit. This
So most
unit had,
people that went there thought there was one return when there were
yes,
multiple. So were there filters in those other returns?
nope,
There
and,
you
and
go. There
yep,
was no filtration.
yep,
Was there
and
airflow on the other returns?
yes,
Okay.
yep.
Wow.
And so, and granted, she didn't even know they were there. I had to really like search them out. I didn't know they were there until I crawled up under the house finally,
Right.
and
And then you're like,
got
where
to
did
looking.
those go?
Yes,
What?
and
Well,
so
oh my God. Now I'm spun all around.
yeah. And so it was just like, a bunch of things. And so luckily I was able to kind of like guide her and get her into this place to be like, okay, let's go to a heat pump and let's go down to a 3-ton, which
When
we
did
went
it get
from
installed?
uh a little bit less than a month ago now.
Have you talked to her
Yeah.
since?
Yes, I've been back out there, and that
She's
also
happy?
goes into the other thing. Well, she was happy,
Okay.
except what I think happened, she talked to her son-in-law and
Uh-huh.
probably was like, here's all the things that he did. And I assume there was probably some pushback of him being like, well, I put in a 5-ton and this guy was telling me that that was wrong. So I'm getting my ego defensive. So then
Right,
he's
right.
like,
That's fine.
how much did you charge? And so I think, because when I talked to her, she was happy with it. Everything was working great. But then she was just like, well, um, let me rewind. Because
Okay.
another thing, I didn't replace the thermostat wire, or that wasn't originally what we were planning on doing, because
Right,
there was like, hey, we're trying to keep this as cheap as possible. And so I
right.
was kind of doing what I call like a stripped down install, where I reuse things that can be
Well,
reused.
how'd you even get to budget? Unfortunately, you couldn't get to budget, it sounds like. Sounds
Uh,
like you had to just
I,
lean on getting the lowest. Did you offer her the full install with a replacement?
yes, yes,
Okay. So
because
so when the question was asked, why wasn't a new thermostat wire run? You said, because you selected not to have it run because it
yes,
was offered to you.
yes, and so it
And
was
I
this.
have documentation on everything that I offered to you because I know you're fucking senile, and I know your son-in-law is a scumbag, dirtball piece of shit, doesn't know what he's doing, HVAC contractor.
Yes,
And
and
so I knew all this stuff in advance. So bring it on if you want, because I'm going to make him, if he doesn't shut the fuck up, I'm going
yeah,
to really embarrass him with you.
oh yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah,
So I'm just sort of
yeah.
anticipating.
Yes,
So
that was essentially what it was. Is because we did the install, and when I was starting things up, I found that the thermostat wire, it was only there was only 6 strands of wire anyways, and 2 of them was shorted, and so I was able to get it running. I just had to disconnect the heater kit to where it wouldn't have backup heat strips, and I
right.
was like, yeah, we're gonna have to pull a new wire, and so then we scheduled come out and finish that and do it. And so I went out and did
Was it
that.
wire that he pulled?
No, it was original wire, and he just spliced into it, and it was a
Oh,
hack
so
job.
it's like you're asking me why I didn't replace the wire. You didn't replace it, you asshole. And this is your fucking mother-in-law.
Yes, yes,
So don't ask why I didn't replace it. What you really should be doing is explaining why the hell you didn't replace it, asshole.
yeah. Well, what I did is because she was after we'd already done it all. Um, then she was like, "Well, why wasn't the thermostat wire included?" So we kind of had that discussion. Like, well, if you remember, when we got to talking about the different options, you were saying that you was really needing to kind of cut cost as much as possible. So you remember when I started cutting out some of these things that I'd mentioned, and she was like, uh, "I mean, I guess so." And
Uh,
we kind of
well,
went
I got
down
it
in,
documented. So
yeah, and then so she was in this spot of like, well, uh, you charge because like the total job was 13,000,
right.
and
Okay.
she was like, well, I mean, I thought it was going to be like 8,000, and I was like, okay, well, if you don't mind, like, where was you getting that 8,000 number? Oh, well, online, and like my son-in-law said so, and I was like, oh, okay. And just to be clear, this is this is the son-in-law that installed this last system. Is that right? And
The
she goes,
crap
yeah,
that you had all this trouble with,
yeah. And I go,
and
well, I
he
mean,
did it all wrong,
yeah. And I
and the
said,
other
well,
guy knew he did it all wrong too.
yeah. And so I said, I was like, well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I could have done it cheaper, granted, I would have had to have done it the same way he done it last time. And if you remember, you didn't get a warranty. It only lasted 9 years, and you had problems the entire time. Uh, do you think it was worth a little bit extra to not have those problems anymore? And she was like, I mean, if it fixes it, I mean, I guess so. And I was like, I mean, and what did I say after that? It was something like uh, I said, "Oh, can I ask you a question? I feel like that you're feeling that maybe you just overspent on something you wish that you hadn't spent money on. Is that seem fair?"
Oh,
And she
good
was
for you.
like, "I mean, not really." She's like, I really don't know." And I'm like, "I mean, I understand. It's a lot of money. You spent a lot of money before, and you got burned. You got a very
And you
bad
got
unit."
burned. That's what you got to keep doing. And you got burned, and you got burned by your son-in-law, and that's got
Yeah.
to feel bad.
Yeah. And so what I said, I was like, well, because, you know, if I had done the same job that you got before and I only charged 8,000 over the course of the life of this system, you would spend 16,000. But I only charged you 13,000 and you don't have to deal with the headache. So does that seem like that would be good? And then she was kind of like, "Oh, yeah. Okay." And
Gotcha.
her tone from like very skeptical of like,
What
complaining
did I
about
just do?
price,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. It went from that to like very, thank you, I really appreciate you, that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
And
So
so,
there was a person in there behind all the dementia.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, granted, I was really like it took a lot for me to not just be like, you know, jump to child and let,
Yeah,
emotions
right.
take
All
over.
of your Sandler was good. Good thing you've been listening to it lately.
Yeah,
Holy
because
cow!
I
This
was
is like somebody say,
yeah,
where's the hidden camera?
yeah.
Wait. Who? Somebody's
Oh yeah.
punking me.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were. I was definitely being tested because I was just wanting to be like, oh, because just like you were saying, like what you were saying was what was going in my head. To be like, oh, you mean this dumbass
Yeah.
that doesn't know what the blank he's doing, and like it is the reason I'm here right now to begin with. You shouldn't need anything for another 10 years. But you had to get a new system. Why? Because that guy is stupid. He has a room temperature IQ and doesn't know what he's doing. And for some reason, couldn't take care of it himself to begin with, which is why I'm here. Uh,
Right. Right. I'm
but
sorry, ma'am. I don't know what goes on with your relationship with your son-in-law and you, but whatever it is, I'm sorry for it.
yeah,
And please don't listen to him about anything anymore, because what he did with that equipment of yours, he should be ashamed of, unless he doesn't like you.
yeah. And which something that was also funny is when I installed the unit. Uh, while I was finishing up, she come outside. She was on the phone with somebody, and she was like, "Hey, my son-in-law wanted to know if he can have that old unit. And I was like,
Oh, we're losing Ken. Hang on a second. Ken, we're losing Ken. He's getting tired. Are we losing you, Ken?
My comment is, what's the difference between in-laws and outlaws? Outlaws are wanted.
You got to put a bell next on your desk so you can ring it so that we'll stop talking and let you make your interjections. Ding, 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 ding.
I got
no one wants to talk.
dogs that are. Yeah, I got this.
You got to
dog
go do the
growling at
dog.
the big dog. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good to see you again. I'm glad to hear you're feeling better.
Yeah, thanks.
Keep working out.
You betcha.
All right. So, Tanner, you were saying, I'm sorry.
That's fine. That was about it. He comes out and he's asking if he can have the old unit, and I don't.
Where had you already done something with it?
Well, sort of, kind of. I've got this dolly that I like. If I do an install by myself, I have a dolly that I can set the unit on and roll it out to the pad and stuff. My dolly had the tires blew out on me. And so to get the old unit out, I just took it apart. And I just took it piece by piece. And so I was like, I mean,
it was flat anyway.
Yeah, it's like it was. I didn't know what he was
wanting
wanting out of it.
Absolutely. What is he hoping to recycle it?
Yeah, and well, he was like, yeah, but there's some parts on it. Could we get your number, and if we can come by, we'll call you and see. I was like, sure, give him my number. And so she gave them my number. Granted, I scrapped that unit about 3 days after the fact.
Right. Right. You're like, that was the picture of me, Cybertruck with a trailer behind it. That unit was in there.
Yes, it was. But yeah, it was just it was very easy to tell it was a guy. He is a probably owner operator
or a drug addict or some kind of
he does terrible work, and it was funny because
and he's worried about a 9-year-old scrap out of a 9-year-old unit. I mean, that's really a dirt bag.
Yeah, because he was like, or he had told her, is like, yeah, well, I have the same unit, so I might have some parts I can reuse off of it. And it's like, do you do such terrible work that you just know it's gonna fail and you need backup parts?
You need those backup parts.
It's like, God.
Man, I wonder what his house looks like. He's got probably backup parts for computers that he bought in 2008.
Well, if he installed the computer, he's going to need backup parts.
Well, no, the computer got thrown away in 2013, but he still got the backup parts for it from 2008.
Yeah, because like after the fact, because she mentioned, she was like, yeah, well, he said the reason he replaced it with a 5-ton is because there was a 5-ton there to begin with. And I was like, well, I mean, that's fine and all, but you see, it still didn't need a 5-ton anyways. And this was after I'd already installed it, and we had had a heat wave as well. And I'd asked her, I said, because like that was one of the first things, like, well, when it got really hot, how'd it do? She's like, oh, it did fine. It didn't move, blah, 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 which I was kind of surprised. I thought it was going to slide whenever it got really, really hot. And so we had that discussion.
Solved a bunch of holes.
Yeah.
In the house.
Yeah.
Without even realizing that they were going to be there.
Yeah. And so then the question of, or her bringing up him saying that the reason I put in a 5-ton is because that was what was there before. And I was like, well, how I was asking you about if it was keeping up. Well, if 3 tons was too small, when it got really hot, it would have definitely not kept up, but it did. So that means it's if anything, a 3-ton might be too big still. And I said, so a 5-ton was definitely way too big. And that's definitely why you had to replace that blower motor. That's why you had problems left and right after the fact. There's a laundry list of problems you had, and it all leads back to this. And so I was like, so sure, there may have been a 5-ton there before. That just means the boneheads that installed it initially didn't know what they were doing. And your son-in-law who installed it didn't know what he was doing. And so we were the only ones able to catch the problem to begin with before we gave you another problematic unit.
Well, and on top of that, the boneheads that put the first one in, it was probably one of those old-fashioned ones that could handle that limited
Yeah.
duct work.
Yeah.
So, you know, and so did you give her a 2-stage?
No. Single
Single
stage.
stage.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow.
Yep.
So, and it was fine.
What's up, Ben? Nope. But yeah,
Wow.
so
That's
it
a
was
great, that is sort of the epic journey.
mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
did a rod tail.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting one. Uh, but it ended up working out, and also I had,
No, it didn't, because you're going to go back and she's going to have forgotten everything you ever told her.
probably.
Maybe she'll forget your number.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know how you handle that going on. It's like, oh, your son-in-law. So you probably better not talk to him about this, because I got some complaints with his install. And unless you promise not to talk to him about it, I don't think I want to share the complaints with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's more, I would just say, well, it sounds like he's got a lot of questions and a lot of issues with what we did. Here's my number. Tell him to give me a call. And instead of talking through someone who's borderline
Because
senile and can't remember anything,
right?
we can talk directly, and I will explain to him directly why he's a moron.
Right. So,
And if I mean, and
and
we
can
can,
you record? You probably are technologically, you could,
yeah, if that happened, yeah, I could
if he
record it, and I
called you,
definitely would.
you would record it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh my God, Tanner, that's
Just because
awesome.
I mean, it would. I don't know. After that phone call, would he just like purely hate me, or would he just be so like just discombobulated that he'd be like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm gonna forget
Well, so
all
you
this
want to
happened.
handler him
Oh,
and
that's
be
exactly what I would do.
nice all the way until he goes to the wrong place.
Well, I would just Sandler him the whole time. Like
Right.
if he starts going in and be like, a 5 ton is what it needs, blah blah blah, and I just be like, huh, well that's interesting. You see, on all new systems, I put in a smart AC, and here, I'll send you a screenshot of the run times of our system right now, and I'll show you that it's maintained temperature even when it's outside of design temp. So if it needs 5 tons, then how would this 3 ton work then? Like I would just question, I would
There
hammer
you
him
go.
so
You do
hard.
all the right.
Yeah. And like, what is he going to say? Like, he has literally nothing to stand on. And be like, well, when I tested here, I'll send you the screenshot of the TruFlow grid or TruFlow report. The static pressure was a 1.2. I don't know if you've noticed on the side of the data plates where it says what the rated static pressure is, but those two numbers didn't match. And here's what it was after I got done. So tell
And
me
what
there.
did you get it down to?
0.55. I didn't get it as
Okay.
low as I was wanting to, but
She didn't give you the budget.
yeah, and it to increase the return duct size would have been fairly difficult. It wouldn't have been an easy one. And since
Oh,
we
'cause
were
the crawl
working with a
space?
limited,
Yeah.
since we were working with a limited budget, it was just. And another one of the things that she had asked a question about is that if on a package unit, if I'm doing like a stripped down install, if the like the flashing, if the flashing is in decent shape, I'll also reuse that, because then I don't
Right.
have to build new flashing. I don't have to charge for that. And so that's just another one. And that was one thing she's like, well, she was asking why that wasn't replaced. And so I was having to be like, well, again, if you remember when we talked about price and
When
you
I
said you
offered
wanted
you
it
the
cheap.
flashing, you said
Yeah.
that you wanted to cut price, and I said, well, we could cut we could not reuse the flashing. Wow.
Yes, it does. Well, it does by proxy, because it looks at supply and return temperatures, and it looks at that delta T. And so the by proxy is if it has a delta T, the unit's running. When it doesn't, unit's not running. And so I'm able to look and to see what the run times are. I can see what that return temperature is. And so, if it stays 72 the whole time and it doesn't jump up, I know that's good. So there's some nice things with that.
Does
And especially
that
on
answer
that.
that question, Ben? I'm sure it does. He's a smart guy.
But yeah, so that is that was my story of
Oh my God, that's exhausting.
yeah.
I am ready for bed after that story.
Well,
That feels
we
like
are
most people we seem to be dealing with these days as they go around and around in these logic circles.
yes.
They get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, so wrap it up with a good Cybertruck story.
Oh shoot. There's so many now. The amount of well, let me
You
think.
took a road trip, right?
Well, I went to Atlanta in it
Okay.
for a show. Me and some friends went to a concert over there, and that was pretty fun. Which it's I don't know. It's kind of weird of going into areas where I know there's other Cybertrucks and people still are like, "Oh shit, Cybertruck."
Right,
That's
right.
always still funny because like I expected in my area,
Uh-huh.
but that was fun. That's one thing with uh, I've yet to be driving and see a kid and to not like it's always the same reaction. Like you see them looking, you see the moment they notice it, and then they always point, jump up and down, and scream every single time. Every single time.
I saw somebody posted a video of that on X. The kid is by a school,
Oh yeah, I've
and
seen that too.
all the
Yes,
kids are getting all fanatic.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's so funny.
That's how it happens every time. And there was one time I was at a red light and there was this older lady that was like in the turning lane next to me. She rolls her window down and so I rolled mine down and she's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's a Cybertruck." She's like, "Who makes it?" And I was like, "Tesla." And she goes, "Well, it's different, but I like it."
Oh, nice. They are pretty cool to see in action.
Hmm.
They're much better looking when they're moving than they are in the still pictures, I think.
Yeah, I think the more you
It's
see it,
really
the
cool.
better that it looks. It's like when you first see it, it's so different.
It's so
It
different. It's
yeah,
jarring.
it's just yeah, it's like it's so jarring that you just immediately like don't like it.
Your
But then
brain doesn't know where to put it.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
then the
so
more you see it, the more you're like,
oh yeah.
wow, that's just elegant and
Yeah.
simple.
Oh yeah.
And then regular trucks start looking ugly and stupid.
Oh yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah.
wow, look at how ugly those, and
Yeah.
they've made the regular trucks really ugly lately with their idiotic grills and crazy
Mhm.
headlights and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't like the newer trucks even before the Cybertruck. I was definitely more of well, I didn't like them because they were so fragile and weak. It was like another truck I have an '89 Silverado, and so it's
okay.
like I've had that truck. Like I'd be when I worked for someone else, which funny enough it broke down. Transmission went out because those 4L60s are just garbage transmissions. But anyways, it stayed there overnight, and my boss, his truck was also there, which is like a brand new GMC, and we had a hailstorm come in, and it was
Oh
like
no.
a hailstorm comes in, destroys his truck. My truck still doesn't look great, but no dents, and so it's like I've always not liked new trucks just because of how weak they are there, and so now there's like a new truck
Oh,
that's
because your
actually
the sheet
durable.
metal on your 89 was much
Oh
thicker.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah,
Gotcha. Well, that's the
Ex-
war on things that work. They
oh
make
yeah.
the truck thinner and thinner so they get better
Hmm.
mileage.
Yep. And which there was I'll tell you this one quick funny story before we go. I went to my buddy of mine has a tent shop, and so anytime I get a new vehicle, like it's immediate, like I've got to get it tinted, just because I
Mhm.
can't stand driving around in a fishbowl. And so I was at their shop. I was sitting in the back while they were in their shop while I was working. I was working on my tablet, and this guy comes in, someone that they had known, and he comes in. He goes to the back, and he's like looking at my truck. I wasn't saying anything and he didn't know that it was mine, and so he's kind of like uh, immediately kind of the only person that I've really heard be like mouthy about it and stuff.
Negative. Yeah,
Yeah,
jealousy.
yeah, and
Jealousy.
so he was just like, "Oh, I don't, I forgot what he said. It was some. Just imagine this. Imagine your typical like low IQ Southern conservative type person that
Yeah, why is
has
he at a
had the
tint shop?
internet for yeah, like just not very bright is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And so I kind of popped up and I go, yeah, people's just not really used to seeing, utilitarian American made trucks. They're used to their Chinese garbage. So, not a lot of people like them. And he was just kind of like, what? And,
Yeah,
uh,
100% American made.
mhm,
America, man,
yeah.
not Mexico, not China. Oh, that's funny. So your trip to Atlanta. So the trip to Atlanta. Did you at all? Were you all upset that you didn't have full self driving?
Yes.
Yeah.
I,
So
well, I, yes, and kind of no. I've here lately on the new version that I have. I don't know
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
eye attention thing. Like I'm getting strikeouts when I'm like literally just looking ahead, not looking at my phone, like not doing anything other than just staring out this windshield. I'm getting strikeouts, and so
Oh, that's
it
not
kind of
happening to me.
like for
So
me to
you're
use
not
it.
liking full self driving anyway, so you don't mind not having.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if I'm going to use it, I put sunglasses on and I put a wrist weight on my steering wheel, and so
Okay.
then I don't have those problems. But
Ah,
it's like it's annoying enough that it makes it be like it's not.
fun.
It's
It's not fun. And it's not really providing you a service.
yeah. It's to
Yeah.
the point to where it's like I'm okay with not having it because I'm driving a Cybertruck.
Okay.
So
So my Vision 3 cars um, are kind of annoying in the way
mhm,
that they behave. And I haven't driven my Vision 4 car like
mm,
hardly at all, but I don't think it's like significantly better.
mm.
Each car is different, which makes it really weird because you would think that for the two Vision 3 cars, they're on the same build, but they still behave a little differently.
Hmm. Well,
And
that's interesting.
it's weird. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Because I know I've heard that the hardware 4 cars are more refined and better than the hardware 3 cars. Uh,
right, but that car doesn't have so I'm only on 15.2 or 5.2 or whatever it is. So I don't have summon yet.
okay, yeah, I don't
And
either.
it's 15.3 that has summon.
Yeah, I've
Well,
not got
no,
that
your
either.
car has summon. Your Y has summon.
It has the regular smart summon. It don't have the new actually smart summon.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so I haven't seen that's not really all that you're seeing. That's not any different. That's smart summon for level 4 cars. That's not true ASS because you like it won't go park itself.
Yeah.
You can't send it's basically the car has been waiting for summon and now if you have 15.3 it has summon.
Yeah. Which it looks like from what I was seeing, the big difference is it seems to be have a lot better decision making. I know before when I would use summon, it seemed to just kind of be like, what's the fastest route from point A to
Right,
point B? I'm going to take
right.
that and I'm going to
Yep.
disregard anything else that's
I'll
in the
go
play.
wrong way on one way areas and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So I think that's actually fixed on the version 3 cars because summon on my version 3 cars seems to be working better.
Mm,
You like you saying it was kind of a really a stupid pet trick. Now it seems to be like it's every time you can get it to do something. Like there were times where you couldn't even get it to do anything.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I
It's
know.
interesting to go through this evolution, though, and it would be fascinating to look at these videos years
Oh
from
yeah.
now and be like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
remember when it was like
Yeah.
that."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is
And
really early adopter stuff, and pretty soon these cars will just drive. Like Liz is coming home tomorrow night at 11 or something. Probably 2 years from now, I'll just send the car.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seems to be on that track. And I think from what it seems like with the new with actual smart summon, it seems to be more of like this is the foundation to be able to get to that point.
To
To
be
where the
able to get
old, yeah, to where the old summon, like the foundation was more, it was more on the lines of like FSD version 11. So it's like this definitely is like smart summon version 12 versus version 11.
Yeah, because they're all pulling over
Yeah,
when they get to the destination, and
yeah,
like at least giving some kind of a lame attempt at finding a parking spot,
yeah.
as opposed to just sort of stopping in front of a driveway and being like, "Okay, up to you now."
Hmm.
Um,
Yep. In which I'm uh and I know supposedly or Cybertruck's supposed to be getting FSD sometime this month.
this month, yeah,
So
very
I'm
exciting.
I'm excited to see what that's like. I don't know if
Do
I
you
should
have the
have high
parking
or low
thing?
expectations. Do what?
Do you have the parking thing now? I think the parking thing
Uh
got
I
launched.
have I have park assist, but I don't have the auto park yet.
Okay, so you didn't get that version yet.
No. But I mean, I don't know. I don't see the use of auto park. I've tried it on the Y a couple of times, but more times than not, it ends up being something that like I have to just take over and do it.
Yeah, it takes
Like,
it 4 times to get it right when you would have got it right the first time
yeah, in a fraction of the
in a
time. Like
fraction of the time.
yeah, it's way too slow.
Yeah, and sort of spastic too.
Yeah. And and if people come around it,
Pretty
if
smooth.
yeah, if people
And
walk
if people
behind
come
you,
around,
it's done.
it's yeah, total. Uh-oh, human being, don't move.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, if I'm backing it up, I'm like, get out of my way, or I will run you
I
over.
know this is making a lot of noise and you're aware of it.
Yeah.
So and
Uh,
in the Cybertruck, they're probably
oh yeah,
watching.
yeah, yeah. They're probably walking out in the road and going to get hit by somebody else for having staring at my
Oh,
truck.
that's right. That was funny.
Have you seen? I'm sure. I guess you've seen that video of the guys like looking at a blue Cybertruck, and then all of a sudden a car comes out of nowhere with a dude on his hood, and they stay fixated on the Cybertruck the whole
Yeah,
time.
and you
They
guys
don't
still yes.
they
Oh
don't
my
go, oh,
god, somebody walking
what's happening
across the
here?
street gets whacked.
Yeah, there
Oh,
was
that's a very funny one.
cameraman's like, I'm staying focused on the important thing. That Cybertruck right there.
I know, I
That
don't
guy,
think the cameraman even realized it.
that guy's too far gone. He's dead anyways. Nobody cares anymore. That was
Oh my
yesterday news.
god.
We, we want to see
And
the
there's
truck.
a video of
Uh,
a whole bunch of people at a traffic light, and the left turn light comes on, and kitty corner across the way is a Cybertruck that's parked and it's waiting to go straight. And so cars start doing the turn thing, and this and there's a pedestrian crossing, probably against the light, because I'm sure the walk sign didn't say to walk when the green arrow is coming on. And so somebody comes through, and this guy ends up on a hood, and just as the car comes through, the guy's still on the hood and about to fall off the car, and the car is coming to a stop just outside of focus of the Cybertruck. And so it's like the guy didn't even pan with the accident. He stayed focused on the Cybertruck. It was very
yeah.
Yes.
all right, guys. Bedtime.
Bedtime.
Yep.
Thank you for coming, and please be thinking about steps in the free quote process. I think Reedie's helped me with so what prompted you to invite me out today will be the first question. And then the one question, which is there anything that you're hoping your new system will be able to do that your old system didn't do, or that it will be better? And then roll into the comfort quiz. Does that sound like a logical order to both of you?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Johnny was using the "What am I here for?"
What am
question.
I here for? Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm working on the narrative of actually it was on LinkedIn tonight. And this guy Jamie Scar and I were having a conversation back and forth, and he prompted me to be thinking about talking initially when shopping for HVAC replacement. People don't know how to differentiate between various installation options or different equipment features, much less begin to understand how those choices impact their operating experience. Lacking this knowledge, their primary differentiation tool is price. This tends to create a polar prioritization on lowest possible price without thorough exploration of available equipment features and installation choices. Which ironically is exactly what you had in your example today, Tanner. But by
Mhm.
giving them understanding from the user experience side of major equipment features and installation choices, a good sales education process allows them to build a clear replacement specification that includes the equipment features and installation choices that are within their budget. So, and I actually had Grok help me polish that up. But the conversation on LinkedIn with Jamie Scar is really what helped me realize that we needed to improve the narrative on that. Post it, see if it posts.
I think you put it in Slack.
I'll put it in Slack too.
Well, I think wasn't that in there? I remember reading 3 different versions of the same thing.
Yes, I may have put did I put the last one? Yes, because well, this might be the final edit. I'll put it in there anyway. I'll put it in Monday meetings. And I'll include the
Good.
LinkedIn link in case you guys want to go check that out. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Good
Good
seeing
night.
you. Good
See you in
night.
2 weeks.
See y'all.